It is a movie that effectively changed the film industry forever. A movie that was so totally different from anything else that had ever been seen. This was a movie that presented a whole new way to depict a fantasy world that has been replicated hundreds, if not thousands of times. And I'm going to make a bold statement here. Not one of those films have the expansive vision, ambition, and depth this movie has. Not one. That movie is none other than 2001: A Space Odyssey. 2001: A Space Odyssey is directed by one of the all-time greatest filmmakers, Stanley Kubrick. 2001: A Space Odyssey is a sci-fi film, perhaps the greatest movie of its kind ever made that is about the evolution of man, man's relationship with technology, and man's overall place in the universe. Kubrick was, in every sense of the word, an uncompromising, no-holds-barred artist. He made his movies much like a painter would paint a painting. What is his painting symbolizing? What story is it telling? Or in Kubrick's movie's case, what is the film as a whole saying? Every scene is geared towards that overall artistic statement without any compromise allowed by anyone involved except by the man himself. With a few exceptions, like Lee Ermey in Full Metal Jacket, that's how tightly creatively controlled Kubrick's movies were. That's really why Kubrick's movies were not typically made like conventional movies are. Kubrick's movies are each like one grand design rather than driven by the emotions of conventional storytelling. Kubrick's movies are coldly and efficiently thoughtful. The efficiency of Kubrick comes through the virtuoso technical, creative, and precise filmmaking that he was known for. Stanley Kubrick was what's known as a filmmaker's filmmaker. A filmmaker's filmmaker is someone who is so deeply immersed in their craft that how their stories are told through the filmmaking art form is really only understood by other filmmakers. He used innovative storytelling techniques to tell his stories and get his artistic messages across. And the artistic message of this film could be labeled as cynical and uncompromising in its view of humanity as a species. The film pulls no punches in its view of humanity and its relationship with technology, and unfortunately, it's not an optimistic or positive one. And that message and the filmmaking used to communicate that message is what we are going to be going over. This video is an in-depth look of this 1968 classic that is designed to at least attempt to make viewers of this video who haven't seen the whole film want to watch the whole film for themselves. The film starts with the famous Dawn of Man sequence. This is a sequence set 4 million years ago with humans featured at their most primitive and underdeveloped as apes. The apes live under harsh, brutal, desert-like conditions. Intense heat, barely any food or water, threats of predation. It is more or less every creature for themselves. We see a tribe of apes living somewhat harmoniously together, trying to survive and succeeding mostly. By the way, if you were wondering if that leopard attack had any CGI in it, it didn't. There isn't one frame of CGI in this film. This movie was released in 1968. CGI wasn't widely available in movies until the mid-90s. And then, one morning, they see it. What they see is a rectangular prism, otherwise known as a monolith, placed there by an unknown species. The apes go crazy seeing it. They have never seen anything like it. Look at the way this shot is composed. This is done with a kind of shot we are going to see a lot of in this movie, the slightly low angle wide shot. A low camera angle is done to project power in a shot. They then start to eventually inch closer and closer and closer to it, first one, then a few, and the rest, until they completely surround it, almost like they're worshipping a deity. It establishes humans in their most primitive form as curious, wanting to understand, and even fairly selfish, and trapped by impulse. It's a cold view of humanity. This piece of music used here is called Requiem, by the Hungarian composer György Ligeti. This very dramatic classical piece is an almost perfect fit for this scene, because it really gets across the spooky and dramatic appearance of this unknown, likely alien, object. Requiem is a piece we are going to hear more than once in this film. Then, the next scene. This is the scene where man comes across the most basic of technologies, a club in the guise of a bone. The ape begins to figure out what this bone can do, how it can be used, therefore illustrating man's opportunistic desire to be dominant at any cost. Did this unknown alien species give this knowledge of weapon use to the apes? That's one of seemingly limitless questions this movie asks. Some time has passed. The apes from one tribe have now all learned to use these bones as weapons. Then, another tribe of apes comes up. They scream at each other, and one of the armed tribe members beats up one of the unarmed tribe members, and the armed tribe members chase away the unarmed tribe members, and the armed tribe members sort of follow, waiting for new adversaries. This is clearly symbolic of man's self-destructive desire to conquer out of protection for itself, and now that man is armed, they feel even more confident than before. They are the new bad boys around. The apes are misusing this technology. Then, perhaps one of the single greatest cuts that has ever been done. One of the apes throws up its bone club, which is the movie's way of beginning man's development and evolution, and it transitions from the bone to a spaceship of a similar shape. That one cut shows mankind's progression of technology to the near future. Has man gotten over its head with such sophisticated technology? That's what the movie ultimately is going to tackle. You can see the film's incredible attention to detail in terms of these visual effects. These spaceships were models photographed against black, and then the star background of the Earth were added in later when the exact film negative that was used to film the models against black is wound back and used again to film the Earth and the starfield paintings, looking as if the ship is rotating with the Earth in the shot too. What they're doing is they're filling in the unused black space on the film. Those spaceships have little parts fitted to them that make them look sophisticated and intricate, and they look like they have been used a lot. They're dirtied up, they're lit from inside, and they have a specific way of functioning. 2001 was the first film to depict special effects in such a realistic way. Before 2001, sci-fi films looked kind of shiny, and spaceships that were featured were sleek and had little detail. Circular, like UFOs. It was sort of a tongue-in-cheek type of thing. This kind of detail, in 2001, had never been seen before, hence why it was so groundbreaking. Eventually, we get to a conversation between one of the main characters, Dr. Floyd, and his colleagues. Now, this conversation is somewhat boring, there's no initial focus on any one character, and these characters are flatly written. Not one of them is really all that interesting.
Well, how is Gregor?
Oh, he's fine. He's been doing some underwater research in the Baltic, so I'm afraid we don't get a chance to see very much of each other these days.
Well, when you do see him, be sure to give him my regards. Huh?
Yes, of course.
But that's sort of the point. This whole film is made from a somewhat bird's-eye perspective. If there are any standout characters, then the focus goes to them and not the movie's artistic statement. Kubrick's artistic statement always has center stage in his movies.
Dr. Floyd, I hope you don't think I'm being too inquisitive, but...
So we see Dr. Floyd going to the moon, and it is a Pan Am charter flight, and with the exception of the crew, and only he is on it. we hear the Blue Danube Waltz again, which reflects the harmonious side of humans and their relationship with technology. You can see flight attendants serving liquid versions of food. And then one of the attendants has to apparently walk upside down while going into the cockpit to give the pilots some food. Now this shot was done with the camera attached to a centrifuge set, rotating with it, and the actress walks in a specific way in place, even though it looks like the exact opposite, and she exits with the camera upside down, even though it looks upright. The film is slowly paced, cut in an almost harmonious kind of way. Everyone is seemingly enjoying life, it's a civil and relaxed scenario, and technology is working for the benefit of man's evolution. Then, Dr. Floyd and a few other people have a meeting about an object they found there on the moon,
I bring a personal message from Dr. Howell.
and they then go to it. About this shot and others similar to it, instead of using a model, the spaceship seen close up from the outside with people seen moving around in it was actually a two-dimensional photograph that was mounted onto glass instead of a model, because the actors were being seen moving around inside the spaceship, and it was easier to do it that way. And for those shots, that technique just worked better. This piece of music is Ligeti's Lux Eterna, a spooky and ominous piece Kubrick used to reflect the astronauts' journey to see this unknown object. Lux Eterna also reflects the expanse of space and the dramatic importance of this expedition to man's first contact with potential non-Earth life. It's an intensely dramatic and landmark moment. The astronauts come across a site with the same monolith seen with the apes 4 million years ago, only this time it's buried inside the moon's surface. This scene we are going to be going a bit more in depth into because of its importance to the film as a whole. So here's the first shot. This is what's called an establishing shot. It shows the entire setting the characters are going to be situated in. In this case, it's a large hole with the monolith inside it. This scene, like the rest of the movie, is slowly paced. Now, in this instance, it's because the astronauts probably had to walk a great distance over unfriendly terrain just to get there. Now you see the way the Earth is in the background there? That's kind of symbolic of man's curiosity and also what is potentially at stake upon approaching the monolith, in addition to being scientifically accurate. Why would the monolith be buried in a hole? Well, probably because it's a test by the aliens to see how man will react to it being there, how interested man is to find out what the monolith is and what they plan to do with it, and how far man has evolved from being monkeys to the point where they are advanced enough to go to a place already extremely difficult to get to and dig a hole there to get to it. And if you're wondering how the shot was achieved using no CGI, the whole set itself of the monolith is an actual practical set that is surrounded entirely by black, and around it the moon's small mountains and hills, which is a miniature, and the space background with the Earth is a painting that were both later put in through taking the exact film negative of the take Kubrick used for the initial establishing shot and shooting the miniature on the exact same film negative, so when played back and lit correctly, the miniature appears to be surrounding the whole set. The miniature was shot with black in the middle where the whole set would be. Kind of what was being done with the spaceships earlier. So of course we hear Requiem again. You remember what I said about Requiem and how it would be used more than once? Kubrick once again uses it to great effect here. Then Dr. Floyd reaches out and touches it. Now, just look at the composition of this shot. It's angled down slightly and it's shot with a wide-angle lens, like the first two shots of the scene were. Low angles, as said before, symbolize power, and in this movie, there is a defining moment in human history, first contact with an extraterrestrial species. The shot is wide open, and it's very powerful because of the low angle and stillness of the shot. They've made contact, so what do they do next? They gather together and take a picture in front of it. Then a loud screeching sound comes in.